Hey, it's Dan Ryder, and in this video, we're going to be talking about how to set up your offline server-based conversion tracking for your Facebook account with Hyros. Okay, now this is really important because this is exactly how you're going to feed Facebook's AI and scale your campaigns even higher. And at Ryder Media, we've been doing this for over 2 years. We were the first certified agency partner with Hyros, and we've used this to help all of our e-commerce brands, all of our info brands and coaches and consultants that trust us with their ad spend every month to help them scale. We manage millions in ad spend on both, YouTube, Google, Facebook, and other platforms. And we've been using these methods with Hyros to help get even greater results for our clients. So we're going to talk about how to set it up in your business. If you are interested in having us help you with that, you can just go to rydermedia.com. But otherwise, let's get right into it. Now, I'm just going to say this first. You should have already set up Hyros properly by going to docs.hyros.com, and depending on your particular funnel, using the instructions based on your tech stack and your business. So you should have done that already. So assuming you've done all of that, and now you're at the point where you're setting up your offline conversions, what you're going to do is you're going to go to your Hyros account, you're going to click Settings, and then Integrations, and you're going to click on Facebook to configure. Now, just in case you're doing this for the first time, you'll have to sign into Facebook first and authorize Hyros to access your Facebook account. So once you do that, you'll end up on this screen here. And the first thing you're going to want to do is just make sure that on the right here, under Facebook conversions, that you've selected the correct business manager. The next thing you need to decide is whether you want to create a brand new pixel with Facebook or use your existing pixel. Most of the time, you're going to want to use your existing pixel. Unless you have any issues that are concerning that would be out of the scope of this video, where you'd want to create a new pixel, you can go ahead and do that in Hyros. Otherwise, disregard what I just said and use your existing pixel. Just select the correct pixel that you're using, and Hyros will give you a little alert just to let you know you're going to be using this pixel. Just hit yes, and you'll get an acknowledgement. And then you can just hit OK. Okay, the next thing you're going to want to do is make sure that Enable Facebook Conversions is toggled on. Now, if you're doing this for the first time, you may see this little banner here that says, please follow up with your rep prior to enabling offline conversions. You can watch this video, and if you have no remaining questions, you can feel free to just turn it on. If you watch this video and you feel like you need some assistance from an onboarding rep, just go ahead and do that as well. But otherwise, we'll proceed with this video. So I'm going to turn that back on. And then Hyros just lets you know we're going to start sending conversions to the pixel. Okay, so once you make sure this is toggled on, the very next thing we're going to do is ignore this offline conversions attribution mode for now. It defaults to last click. We'll talk about that in another video. For now, we're going to go to See Conversion Rules. All right, now the two high-value conversions that Hyros tracks best is sales and phone calls for anyone running a funnel where you're having people book calls. Hyros tracks calls really well. So we need to configure whatever's relevant to you. Now, depending on when you're watching this, as a default for the sales rules, you may see Hyros conversion as the conversion name, or you might see purchase. And the event name matters because the event name determines whether Facebook will read the conversion as one of the standard events or as a custom conversion. And chances are, if you're running an e-commerce store or a traditional sales funnel where you're selling an upfront immediate purchase, you're probably optimizing around Facebook's purchase event already. And if you are, what you want to do is make sure that your default conversion name for sales is purchase. So if it's not already listed there, you're going to want to go ahead and change that to purchase and hit Save Default Settings. The benefit of doing this is that by sending these conversions offline, it will close the gap between anything that Facebook is missing due to the inconsistencies with web event tracking that we already talked about at length, which is why one of the main reasons why you're using Hyros in the first place. So you want to send the same event type. So if you're already optimizing around purchases with your web pixel, you want to send the offline conversion back as a purchase as well. And once you set this up, after Hyros starts receiving conversions and sending them to Facebook, you'll actually be able to validate this in a couple of ways. The first way is you can go to your Facebook Events Manager, and when you pull up your pixel and you look at the events that have been firing, you'll be able to click on purchase, and you'll see that there are two types, browser and server sources for this event. And if I just hover over one timestamp as an example, we can actually see a huge discrepancy between what Hyros sent back to Facebook and what the WebPixel was able to detect on its own. On its own, the WebPixel caught 5 sales, when in reality, there were 14. At the very bottom, under server events process, which again, that stands for offline events that Hyros is sending, you'll see that 14 events were received, and then it says 5 events were deduplicated. What that means is that if Facebook and Hyros both track the event, Facebook will not double count the same sale. So it only processes 9 out of 14 of the offline events sent because it was aware of the other 5. But the main point here is 2/3 of the sales were not caught by the web event. So you can imagine what would happen to ad campaigns over time if you're missing 50% or 75% or 60% of the sales, right? So this is the power of using offline conversions. Okay, so the other way that you can validate that this is working properly is if you go back to Hyros, and let me just go back here. I'll click go back. You can actually scroll down and you can click on See Sent Conversions right here. And when you click this button, it will show you a list of every single conversion event that was sent back to Facebook. So here's an example. So you can see here, these are all the conversions. These are the purchase events. You can see who the contact was, the price, when the conversion occurred, and when it was sent to Facebook. This is a ledger of all the offline conversions that are sent to Facebook. So once you see conversions start to populate inside here, you'll know that Facebook is now receiving those events. And again, you can also validate that by looking at your events manager in Facebook. Okay, so now we want to go back to our Facebook integration settings and back into conversion rules and talk about custom conversions as well as call rules. Now, if in your business, if your ad account is already optimizing around a custom conversion, so maybe you've got an e-commerce business where you've got a variety of SKUs, but you have one main product that you prospect around. You might have even a custom funnel for that product, and that's where all your new customers come in. And so all your front-end marketing is centered around that custom conversion instead of a generic purchase event. This would be relevant to you. Also, if you've got maybe a webinar funnel or a funnel where, for whatever reason, you've created a very specific custom conversion and you want to continue to optimize around that, you can go ahead and do that as well. All you need to do is make sure when it comes to sales rules that you name that conversion exactly. If you want to piggyback off of the custom conversion you've already been using inside your ad account, if you just go ahead and name that exact so that it's an exact match, you can go ahead and do that, and Hyros will send those sales conversions back into the ad account with the same name, and it'll be the same concept as we just looked at with purchases, only you'll be plugging the gaps by sending offline conversions. If you'd like to create a new custom conversion for sales that are being tracked by Hyros, separate from anything else, you can go ahead and name that whatever you'd like. Again, by default, you might choose the Hyros conversions name for your conversion event, or you can quite frankly name it whatever you like. And the way that will look inside of your ad account is once these conversions start being sent, I'm inside of Events Manager again, and you'll start to notice that that conversion, so in this case, if I would have named it Hyros Conversions, that you will start to see that show up inside of your Events Manager as Hyros Conversion. Now, what you'll need to do is create a custom conversion around this event, just like you would normally. So in order to do that, you would hit Create inside of Events Manager, Create Custom Conversion. You would choose the relevant pixel, and then under Conversion Event, you would select that custom event. And again, if this is a conversion that you've already been using, you don't need to do this. You only need to do this if you're creating a brand new custom conversion. So if that was the case, for example, with this Hyros conversion event that I created, I would go ahead and select that and then name the event, whatever you want to name it, and hit create. Once that event is created, you will then be able to go into your ad sets and optimize around that event. However, it's important to note that if you're adding a new conversion event, you will need to go into your event settings and reprioritize that event under the web events configurations for aggregated event measure. The consequence of this is that your ads may need to get paused for up to 72 hours while Facebook reconciles the data that they are able to show you on the back end. So I highly advise to piggyback off of any existing conversions that you've already been using, whether that's the standard default purchase event, or if you've already been using a custom conversion for your funnel, if that makes more sense, you can go ahead in Hyros and make sure that that event name matches exactly. Now, these same concepts apply to call rules. When you click on call rules, you may have a default event name of call, or you may see a standard event for Facebook called schedule, because that's one of the out-of-the-box Facebook standard event names that may make sense to advertisers for call tracking. They might choose to use the schedule event. Either way, here's what's most important. You want to make sure that you use the event name in Hyros for whatever you're already using to track your calls. And the concept here is the same as we talked about with sales. If you use a new event type, whether that's one of the standard events like schedule, so if you're not already using the event type schedule to track your calls, or if you create a custom conversion that you haven't used before, either way, you're going to be forced to go inside of your events manager in Facebook and reprioritize the event priority inside of the aggregated event measure settings. And the consequence of that is that it will pause your ads for 72 hours. So you can avoid that by leveraging the same conversion event name that you're already using. So inside the call rules area for your Hyros Facebook configuration, you want to name the call event name as the exact same name you're using now, whether that's a standard, again, if it's a standard event like schedule or submit application that Facebook offers you, if that's what you were using prior to setting up Hyros, go ahead and continue to use that. If you've got a custom conversion that you've already created, go ahead and name the event name exactly as you have it for your custom conversion. When you do this, just like we talked about with sale rules, Hyros will simply close the gap between the events that are missed with the web pixel by leveraging the data that Hyros is sending offline server to server. So enter in your call conversion name here and click Save Default Settings. Now, everything we just talked about will cover your basic setup of offline conversions for Facebook, and using any other rules for offline conversion tracking with your sales and calls is not required. It may only make sense for certain businesses and for certain situations, and Hyros has additional documentation and training available for how to use those rules if it makes sense for your business. Otherwise, if you just follow what we covered in this video, you'll be all set for offline conversion tracking with your Facebook ads.